everyone, and welcome to the Crescent podcast. I'm joined today by the lovely Michael Laws from Realign Your Career. So Michael is a careers coach, and he's going to talk through us today about his life and his work and how he can help you reach your full potential. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So why don't you tell us about your career journey and how you ended up working
I
on Realign Your
started
Career?
many years ago. I had a career in the city, first of all. And then when I finished that, I moved into financial recruitment. So there was kind of a joint there over to the financial side. And then I evolved through that industry for a number of years. And then I eventually decided to move on from recruitment. It's a tough old game. And I'd had enough of it, really, and I retrained to become a careers coach. So I took a year out and I went to university and did a postgraduate degree in careers coaching, which was great. And it was really useful to have been in the world of recruitment for so long because there's so many links. It gave me my sort of trade, like my basic stuff, really. And then the career coaching really enhanced what I'm doing now.
Okay, so how does it work with what type of careers coaching do you do?
I'm called a careers alignment coach, which sounds very grand. What it really means is I'm supporting people to align their career to their principles, their purposes, their passions, so that I'm helping them to sort of find long-term sustainable answers. Because we can all jump ship and do something and it doesn't work, and then jump ship and do something and it just ends up being, really negative impact on your CV. And it's just not very fulfilling. So my role is to support people to really look at what they want to do and what would make them happy and what's making them unhappy currently. So most people come to me when they're looking for career change. That's the majority of my clients, and it's talking them through that journey, which is very challenging for people.
Okay, so what's your target market? What kind of people do you work with, or is it quite varied?
Very varied. I work with anybody over 18. I don't work with real youngsters because they're going through schools and colleges and stuff for that, really. And so I'm 18 plus up until retirement, really, whichever that means for anybody these days. But I suppose the clients fall into various categories, really. Sometimes I'm working with youngsters. I call them youngsters in their 20s. Often they're sponsored by a parent, and often they're graduates that have returned home and they can't afford to stay in their university town anymore, like people used to so much, and they have to come home and they haven't got a job, and they kind of disengage quite quickly and go back into their bedroom and not coming out very easily. So the parents don't want that for them, and they will be asking me about coaching for them. And it works really well. It just has to have somebody outside of that immediate family who is giving them support and advice and guidance and empathy for their situation. So there'll be a category of people like that. And apart from that, it's really all ages, all circumstances. Some people are unemployed, and they are usually people who've been made redundant. And they're really struggling to navigate the recruitment market because they're very unused to it sometimes. And there's a lack of confidence. I mean, if you've ever been made redundant, we all know it's the position that's made redundant, but not the person. But it's not, it's the person that is left with no job. So it's very challenging for them. So I work with people in those shoes. But actually, I have to say the majority of my clients are people who are in work. They're actually already working, but they want change, and they're already doing a job they don't want to do any longer, maybe in a sector they don't want to be in, maybe in a role they don't want to be in. And it's my role to sort of navigate them through that whole process of making change. And I suppose that's people probably in their 30s, 40s, sometimes in their 50s. I've not worked with anybody in their 60s because I think by that point everyone's trying to think about how to stop work. So I've not actually had a client over 60, but a number of people in their 50s because they see them, they've got 10 years plus to go. So, they're really thinking, how can I do this for another 10 years? So yeah, definitely up to mid 50s. And I suppose if I had to pick a target client, it would be men, and it would be in their midlife. So maybe 35 to 50.
Okay.
It seems to be that although, there's a lot of talk about equality, it still seems to me that the man is the main breadwinner a lot. It still is that model, I think, a lot, rightly or wrongly. And they are the breadwinner, and they are feeling all the pressure of keeping the mortgage up, keeping the payments up for everything, all the family commitments, everything that everybody wants as a family, growing children, all of those issues that are very commonly on the financial shoulders of the man. And I support them with their issues around their work-life balance. That's a big, big deal. And it is very often what they bring home is causing problems at home, and how I can support them to look at what their choices might be around work. So very often it starts with somebody saying to me, I've been an accountant for 15 years and I can't bear it and I don't want to do it anymore. And actually what you end up with is a situation where they don't want to stop being an accountant necessarily, but they don't want to work for that organization anymore. It's quite a toxic culture, maybe a lack of promotion, extended hours required. That's getting worse. And they really need to change the organization rather than necessarily stop being an accountant. But it's quite a process to work through to kind of get to that conclusion. And for some, it's not that. Some, they just do not want to do that anymore. And it's talking about, how do I make myself competitive in an entirely new sector, which is tough.
Yeah. So how does it work? Do they have one-on-one sessions with you? Is there group work?
No, it's all one-to-one sessions. So clients will book a package with me. Invariably, sometimes I'll work with somebody just to do interview support if they want something specific. But most of the clients are coaching clients across a 7-week coaching package. And it helps them to deliver a greater understanding of themselves, really, and how they are and what they want, and to overcome some of the concerns they have about their worthwhileness in work. And I come across a lot of imposter syndrome issues, a lot. I mean, all sorts of people with all sorts of levels of expertise and their seniority. Even if they have quite a senior position, they still seem to struggle with imposter syndrome, which has been quite surprising. So I'm working on very much a personal development aspect to begin with, and moving into the more practical coaching, career coaching skills of CV writing and application writing and AI issues, and especially interview techniques. But the first half is very much a personal journey.
So why should people choose to come to you if they need some careers advice or they want some coaching?
I think my manner and style with people do, integrity to me is such an important issue. It's not something that's negotiable for me. And I think people find they can trust me easily and quickly, which is so important.
Yeah.
And the way I'm working with people is that I'm looking at the things that maybe get in their way. It is a kind of personal development journey. It's very challenging and it can be a deep dive. And not everybody wants that. And if they don't want that, they just want a CV, well, I'm not the coach for them, really. But in the main, I'm dealing with people who the most common expression I hear is, I'm not good enough. That's the
Wow.
most common expression. And it's kind of meaningless. It's meaningless on its own. And it's meaningless, really, in lots of ways to lots of people. It means lots of different things. But of course, 9 times out of 10, it's complete rubbish. And it's just people don't have an awareness of how skilled they are, how able they are, and how transferable their skills are.
Mm.
And they lack that self-worth and that self-esteem to make a move, especially into something new. So
I
I think
suppose as well, if they've been doing the same job or in the same sort of situation for quite a while as well, they get like, you're stuck in that rut.
very much so. And some people I work with have been, it's more unusual these days, but for people to be in one organization for sort of 10 years plus. When they have been, they definitely have become institutionalized. They're often very well paid for the job they're doing, and sometimes better paid than they can get outside, because their salary's been sort of inflated over the years. But that can be an issue, and people have to be realistic about what they can achieve financially. So that's always a difficult conversation for people.
Yeah, of
But
course.
it's a reality. But also, these middle-aged guys that I'm talking about, they feel a bit left behind. Technology is moving so quickly. A lot of young blood coming in where they used to be pivotal to that business. They now feel a bit sidelined, and they're getting that bit older, and they see all this sort of, young blood coming in with all these techie skills and knowledge, and they know that they're struggling by comparison, and they just feel a bit redundant in their capacity. So there's definitely some of that. There's a bit of people feeling a bit deflated. But I think also people just want change. If you've been somewhere a long time, you're scared of it, but you really want it. And of
Yes.
course, to be in an organisation like that for that long but it is more rare these days. People do move
Mm.
around more, but
Yeah,
people
definitely.
tend to move around within their own sector, and they tend to move around within their own role, and often their own role within the same sector. So the move is actually quite, it's challenging in this current recruitment market, which I've never known to be as tough as it is.
Really?
Oh, incredibly tough right now. Incredibly. I think it's the fallout from COVID, really.
Oh, really? Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I can't see why else it would be this difficult. There are a lot of people who are out of work. A lot of people have lost their jobs since COVID, who maybe hung on during COVID because of all the furloughing, and the businesses have not really recovered, and they're letting people go, have let people go, and often quite, not necessarily right at the top, but certainly middle management sort of levels get cut. And I think what also happens is when times get difficult, companies start to believe they can do whatever they like in terms of recruitment. They can take as long as they like. They've got the pick of everybody, and it's a buyer's market, which, of course, to a degree, it is. But what's happening also at the moment is that organisations are going through round after round after round of interview. People are doing 4, 5, 6 interviews, which is unheard of. When it was always 3 max, and that would have been quite a senior role to do a third role.
Yeah.
So they're
Wow.
going through the ringer, really. And then I think companies are risk adverse because of the impact on their finances. They're not making decisions. They're passing the buck around the company and using some kind of um, logical rationale for doing so. But I've been around long enough to see patterns of behaviour, and some of it just becomes cultural. And in the end, people follow each other's trends, and they don't even know why they're doing it. So, I could ask a client. I mean, I'm not in recruitment, so I'm not challenging their recruitment practice. I don't talk to them about. But there are many organisations that will just follow course because they'll see it and read it and hear about it, and they'll suddenly pick this up and think this is the way to do it now. And probably 5 years' time, nobody will be doing that anymore because there's another cycle of change. But right now, people are going through the ringer to get a job if they're out of work. But of course, the finances do impact them. If they come to me early on, and they've got some redundancy money, they're very happy to spend some money with me early on. But of course, over time, somebody may have been out of work for a year and they're really, really struggling financially. Then it becomes a different issue about paying for a coach.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I also do work with businesses as well. So it's not just
Okay.
so the businesses I work with tend to be SMEs. They tend to be smaller businesses, and they will offer some support to maybe they have to let somebody go through redundancy for the same financial pressures. But they want to support them as they come out of work. There's often more of a family feel. They're more committed to the staff,
Right. Sure.
and they hate the fact they're having to let someone go. It's not a numbers game.
Mm.
They will offer them some support with me because I'm a one-man band. I'm cost effective for them. I'm not a massive
Yeah.
outplacement consultancy charging thousands of pounds, which they wouldn't be able to pay. If they could pay their fees, they'd probably keep them in the first place.
That's it. Yeah, of
With
course.
me, they're offering a service on an individual level to someone they really care about. So it's something they really like to offer. And the other thing I do is I go into small companies and offer coaching. If again, 1 or 2 members of staff who are off their game and they have a very personal relationship with the bosses because they may be that small, but they don't always want to open up about what's going on, even though they've got a great working relationship.
Mm.
They find it very uncomfortable to discuss what's happening. So again, I can go in and be that independent voice and talk to them about what's going on for you. And sometimes it's nothing to do with the office, really. It's something going on at home,
Yeah. It's all
which
about
they may open
communication,
up
isn't
more
it?
to me than they would perhaps to them because they feel involved. But it's a highly confidential service. I mean, it only works because I cannot and will not discuss anything with the person that's paying me. So
Yes.
the client, in terms of invoicing, is the boss, but my
Yeah.
client is the person I'm coaching, and that's where
Yes.
the confidentiality is absolutely paramount. There's no way I'm going to discuss what they tell me. But I would encourage them if, there are times when I would really encourage them to go and talk to them about what they've told me, because I can see that that's a big issue for them. And actually, once you have this conversation, they'll understand where you're at.
Mm.
and they'll be on your side because they do care. So it's a small company culture service, really. It's where I
Okay.
fit in. I don't want to work for a
Mm.
business that's trying to convert people into big fat fee earners. It's more about it's the integrity again for me.
Okay. So, bearing in mind the aspect of confidentiality there, can you tell us about your most memorable or most interesting situation you've had to deal with?
Wow.
If you can
Well,
pick just one.
I can pick one client just as an example. Slightly unusual scenario. This lady was in her 40s, very successful project manager, had always done extremely well, was actually living abroad. And I was working with her when she was based in Switzerland, and which makes no difference because I'm all on Zoom. So it doesn't, that's the benefit, really. You know, I can do everything on Zoom. And she was very successful. And the reason that she came to me was because she kind of hit a crossroads in her career where her company wanted her to move into a more senior position, which would have been the next step for her. And she was wanted in that role. But she was unsure whether she wanted to take that next big step, doing more of the same, really, just in a bigger picture. And she was very unsure about her future, just didn't know how to deal with this, really. So we discussed, what was going on for her. And the truth is that in her upbringing, it was quite impoverished, really. She was from Ghana, and she was from a black family. They weren't your impoverished in that way sort of family, but they didn't have loads of money, but they were quite successful insofar as her father had, a good job for over there, and he wanted his daughter to go to school. And he paid for her to go to an international school, really. And she was probably the only, I don't know this for sure, but certainly in the minority of sort of black kids at the school. And her father used to pay cash for the fees, and he used to pay every month cash, and he used to be late paying every month. And she was, in those days, it may happen now, who knows, but she was dragged out of the classroom and sat on a bench outside the schoolhouse every month when the fees hadn't been paid. It was quite ruthless. But she really understood public humiliation and poverty, although not poverty completely because she wouldn't have been there in the first place, but from her perspective. And it gave her a drive to never be in a situation of financial vulnerability again. And that drive had made her, I mean, she obviously has a very capable person, but it gave her this edge to be very successful. And she was, and she was had done very well, and she was in her 40s, extremely well qualified, extremely experienced, and really, really wanted and respected by her company. But she was concerned about this big, big new step. And it came once we had some, quite deep dive conversations into her background, her past, her psyche, all of it. It turned out that this public humiliation that she'd gone through as a child was such a driver for her that had made her make all this money. But actually, it was the first time she'd ever expressed it, ever. So I was
Okay.
very honoured that she spoke to me about this. But in fact, once she started to understand the motivation for this next move was based on a lack of funds, which wasn't the case at all, she could start to step back and look at what she really wanted in her life. And in truth, she didn't want more of the same. She didn't. And she moved away from the company. She actually wanted to have a child. There
Okay.
was a very different thing going on,
Yeah.
very conflicting things going on. But because she learned when she expressed what was going on for her, had gone on for her, it was the first time she'd ever looked it in the eye and gone, oh my God, I'm doing more of the same and I don't need it now.
Mm.
She's never needed it in the way she did when she was a child, but that's been her driver. So she was able to alter her pathway through my coaching. I was a
Mm.
facilitator of her
Yes.
journey, her story. And it was a privilege to hear her talk about it. And she was able to make more rational, clear choices about her future, not based on a fear and lack, but based on the truth, which is what I'm all about, is the truth telling and making choices from
Yes.
a place of truth. So that was probably the most rewarding and in some ways challenging, but
Yeah.
certainly very rewarding, very rewarding. And she did move on she made a new career in a new country.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really great.
That's
And I've kept in
incredible.
touch with
Yeah.
her. It's lovely.
Oh, brilliant. So you and I met, I don't know, a year ago or so, networking, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. It was
How
through the Chamber of Commerce.
it was, yes. I think it was an
Yeah,
online session we met at.
yeah, yeah. It's been really
Um,
useful.
yeah, how do you find networking?
I used to do it massively back in the day and had really got out of that habit completely. And I suppose in truth, I wasn't really seeing my service as a business to business service. I was seeing it much more as an individual private client business, which it is. I mean, it is mostly through leads and personal referrals, things like that I get most of my clients even now. But I really realised that actually, in talking to people, there was a need within businesses as well. Small companies. Of course, the chamber is really geared up to small business, SMEs, and quite micro businesses as well. So I joined that. First of all, I did online calls only,
Okay.
which I enjoyed, and it was a good way back in.
Yes.
And then I started, as you know, we've both done several events, face-to-face events through the chamber. I think you do broader than I do at the moment. And I find it a mix. I find it quite challenging sometimes when they're very large events and they can be quite noisy and challenging because there's so many people in a room. But I think in reality, the smaller events are better because you might only have 30 people instead of 100, but you might meet 10. Whereas in the big rooms, I might only still meet 10, but there's 100 there. But you can't
Yeah.
meet 100, and you have to kind of bounce around and interrupt people all the time. And I find that more challenging.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with the initiating the conversation when people are like huddled in their groups. And I know
Yes,
everyone's always wanting
yes,
to be very welcoming in that, but you still have to go up.
we're Brits after
And,
all.
oh, very much so.
We're not used to going, hi, I am.
Yeah.
I think by the time I come away from an event, after a sort of hour or two, I'm usually getting into the swing of butting in and feeling much more comfortable. I could, if I let myself, just stare into a coffee on the side. And the other problem is, the more I've done it, and you probably know this, because we bump into each other all the time now, is that if you see faces that you recognise, you gravitate to the people that you know. And actually, you're
Yeah.
not really networking with people that you don't know so easily because you gravitate to a face that you recognise. And then you have to
Yeah.
break away from them and go, come on, look, we've got to be brave. We've said it a couple of times. Come on, stop this conversation. We can meet anytime and have a coffee. We don't need to do it here.
That's it. But then it is nice to have that
It
you
is.
see a familiar face, you can go up and say a quick hello, but then you have to proactively be like, right, I'm going to go and talk
I'm
to
going
five
now.
different
Yeah.
people. I'll see you in half an hour,
Yeah.
and
And I
we'll
think people all know
reconvene.
that's also not being impolite. We all know why we're there.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
do enjoy them. I think working from home on my own, I'm a sort of sole trader now,
Yeah,
and
same.
I work on my own at home nearly all of the time. And I think this has given me outlets. So I go to quite a few of the networking events. I still do the online ones from home. I find those quite useful because they're very structured into breakout rooms on Zoom. So
They are,
you're forced into
yes.
those
I was
circumstances.
always, I was quite anxious of those to start with because I was like, oh, we're going to be forced into a room and you have to
Yeah,
talk. But actually, it works really well for meeting people and making those initial connections
yes, it
so that
does.
when you do go to in-person ones, you're like, oh, I recognise you. We spoke
Yes,
that time.
yes,
And
definitely.
then it develops from
I've
there.
made quite a lot of connections online and face to face. And it is a surprising thing because you can be talking to somebody who you think you have absolutely nothing in connection with, and they suddenly say something and they say, oh, I'd really be interested in what it is that you do. And you
Mm,
think, oh, I don't, didn't see that. You just happen to be standing next to each other while you're having lunch or something. So they're always a bit of, you don't know who you're going to meet.
yes.
But I quite enjoy getting out and about and going to some different locations, mainly, and going off to these locations and
When you
finding
don't
them.
get lost, was that what you're going to say there, Mike?
Some of them, no, I mean, one, as you know, I was really just about to turn around and go home because I was like, I can't drive around this town anymore. By sheer fluke, I did
You,
find it, but
you
then
found it.
I did find it. Yeah, great place. Yeah, called Platform 26 for any of you that are
Yes.
interested in
Yeah, Platform
Chatham.
26 in
It was
Chatham.
very good, like office space and facilities. And when we first went in there, it didn't look anything, and then they took us on this tour. up the stairs into all these lovely,
It was,
lovely offices and buildings.
yeah,
It was a really great place to go. So
really well thought out and designed,
very
and
well
yeah,
done.
it was really good, and
But
plenty of
you
parking if
can't
you can
find
find it
it.
out the back.
If you can only find it, then you. But they have got their own car park, haven't they? So
Plenty of
once you know where
parking.
you're going, there's plenty of parking.
How do you find the running your own business side of it? Because obviously you've got the coaching, which you know and you do by rote, and but
Yes.
um,
I love what I do. I think I've finally come to a place in my working life after, a career in the city, a career in recruitment, other consultancy work over the years. Um, some stuff I've absolutely loved, some stuff I've been pleased to stop doing. I think I've come to a point now where everything I have learned in my working life and also my personal life, because I've been involved in as a volunteer for a personal development organization for about 20 years. So
wow,
a lot of the stuff that I have learned in terms of their technique, if you like, is stuff that really informs my coaching practice. So, and I've been around that long enough to really understand the benefits of doing that work. And it is really extremely useful for people. So I bring the basics of that into my coaching practice. So I'm using, my coaching qualification and all that that taught me. I'm using my recruitment background and all that that taught me. And I'm using my personal development training and all that that has taught me, which the three came together as really careers coaching for me became a really good next step. So I
yeah,
think
it
I've
all like tied
found,
in really
yeah, it
nicely.
really has tied everything in, and I love it. I love it. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do this as a job and enjoy it enormously. Running my own business, all the other parts of it, apart from the actual coaching, I suppose are more challenging because there's a lot of business development work you have to do to keep getting business. So lots of marketing work, lots of business development work, hence the networking, lots of
Yes,
online social media stuff, which can be a bit relentless. I mean, you and I have worked together
we have.
and tried
Yes,
to do different things. Some have worked better than others.
yeah,
Um, the main platform for me is definitely on LinkedIn because it's
yes,
become quite,
definitely.
I mean, trying to think of stuff to do and say all the time is challenging. And it was great when, you did some stuff for me and it was great to kind of not have to think about everything all the time for a period, which was lovely. But in reality, there's a lot of that sort of stuff to do. It's ongoing, really. So there is an ongoing need for me to be, online. A lot of that. And now the face-to-face business development and the online sort of face-to-face business development is refreshing. And probably somewhere in some ways I'm more suited because of my background. When back in the day there wasn't all of this, and as a business development professional, it was all telephone and face-to-face networking. Really, we weren't even online.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
I think for me the challenges are around keeping on top of all the admin, keeping on top of all the financial side, keeping on top of doing everything on your own, keeping that momentum. Give me a client or two, the momentum just is there. But when I haven't got that work, and I'm thinking right now today, I just need to look at marketing, finances, admin, whatever. Then I think, oh God, wouldn't it be nice to be in a position where you could just outsource all of this?
Yes,
That may one day come. I don't
one
know.
day. Yeah,
Maybe not. But yeah, I love it. I love it. But
good. I
there
think
are
that makes such a
challenges of
difference as well,
being.
and it'll make a difference to the work that you do with your clients. Like your passion and that, like, comes through with how you talk and about it. So
I absolutely love it, and I get really good feedback, which is very gratifying. I've got great testimonials on LinkedIn. Really, they're mostly on there. There's snippets on my website, but actually on LinkedIn, and I'm starting to build up the Google thing now.
that's good.
I've been a
Yes,
bit behind on the Google thing, so I'm starting to get that up and running. But I've I've not had any clients who have been disappointed or let down or dissatisfied or wanted any sort of refund or even stop halfway. I've not had that at all. So I've been very, very gratified by that as well. So it's been a very rewarding experience for me to do this on my own. And I think the other downside is that, you take a day off, you take a day off. There's no
yes,
holidays. you're not well, you're not well. You don't have any
Yes.
payments. So you do have to factor in, I'm going to take a week off. You have to factor it in and recognize that there's going to be, a loss of, maybe not a direct loss of income, because you can defer your clients a week, of course, in the main, of course, no problem if you give people notice. But you do lose that momentum of a week
Yes.
in business terms. I'm sure you know that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But we need to achieve that work-life balance for ourselves. It's something I'm talking about a lot
That's
in
it.
my job.
Yeah, it is difficult, especially working for yourself,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
can't just necessarily pass the work over to someone
No,
else.
there's no one.
No, well, I'm fortunate. I've got a nice network of other social media managers. So if there was something big going, if I was going away for like a month or something, then I know I've got people I
Yes.
can rely on.
Well, that's
But
good.
if I was ill a few days last week and I just had to just stop everything, and
Yeah.
it does just stop, and then you just have to jump
Stuff.
back on it and
Yeah, you
carry on all
do.
you can.
I think it's important that we look after ourselves, because it's very easy to think, oh, I don't feel great, but I'll just carry on. And it's not helpful. And the one thing I have learned is if I'm not feeling good, then don't coach, because it's not fair, because I give my all to my coaching sessions, and it's quite a personal deep dive, and I need to be on my game. And intuition really comes into play with what I'm doing a lot. And if I'm not feeling well, that part of me is not sharp. It's better for me to say, look, I need to put this back a week or a day or whatever because I'm not well. With
Yes,
something else, I might be able to carry on number crunching, but if I'm coaching, I need to be on
yes,
my game. And it's not fair to somebody else that they're paying you for you to carry on, and
yeah,
you're not
exactly.
on your game. So for me, again, that integrity issue, I need to pull it.
Yes, definitely. And self-care is, I know it's sort of a big buzzword at the moment, but it is really important. You have to look after yourself.
It's very important. I mean, a lot of the problems I come up against in terms of the issues for my clients are mental health concerns. A
Yeah, that
lot,
doesn't
a
surprise me.
lot. And less physically, because you might have a middle-aged guy, 45, he might look after himself physically quite well, not always, but quite well, but mental health-wise, really struggle. And I think men are far less able in the main to open up and discuss it. They don't go home and discuss these things where they should. And they struggle enormously with sharing what's really going on for them. And that can very often turn into something where, again, there's a lot of blame attached to others, but in fact, they're just not exploring what's really going on in their head. So I suppose the specialism for me is that middle-aged man where they may be more loath to really spill the beans. So I think that's where the trust and integrity comes in, and they will open,
Yeah,
they will share with me, and maybe for the
yeah.
first time.
You can ask the right questions, and
Yeah, just making sure they understand that it's okay. I mean, we have terrible problems in this country with male mental health in young men and middle-aged men, and the
yeah,
suicide rates are horrendous with men. So it's for me that I've got a little bit of a slant towards how I post about my services and or what I offer, and maybe that's what attracts this group a little bit more, because you see a lot of stuff online. You see a lot of women-based groups. And I'm not disputing for 1 minute that those are adding value, because a lot of women have been through an awful lot of discrimination over many years and still do in the workplace
yeah,
by men. So it's not that those
yes,
things aren't valid, but I think there is a little bit of men that are a little bit left behind now in terms of their mental health. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. I mean, it's not for nothing that you have all these tragic figures,
yes,
as in like
definitely.
tragic numbers, I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
So there is for me maybe a bit of imbalance sometimes around what help is out there for men, because they don't help themselves for a start.
it's a really tricky one.
Very tricky,
Yeah,
very tricky.
yeah.
When they do, I think it's such a game
Mm.
changer for them.
Yes. Okay, so what advice would you give your younger self?
I suppose some of the advice I would give is not to worry so much about making wrong decisions, because I wasn't comfortable in a lot of my career choices. I am typical of the person that moved from, career in the city where I was reasonably successful in my 20s, but didn't really have any passion for it at all. But I could do a good job, You know, I ran a team of people. It was quite, you know, it was an exciting role, exciting time, but I didn't have any real interest in finance. And then I sort of moved through different things. Recruitment, I fell into, and I loved it for a while. I loved it. And then I got to the point where I thought, I don't want to do this anymore because it's very cutthroat. You know, the invoice is the king of the day. And I couldn't really give as much personal support to people as I want, hence the coaching, really,
Yeah, of
because you
course.
can't, you know, it's about getting that person placed and getting the invoice out. It's tough. It's a tough old gig. So I think if I was looking back now, I would say don't worry so much about not being sure what you really want to do, because you can practice what you preach and find your way through to looking at all your skills and really finding something that suits you later on. And
Yes.
trust yourself, trust your gut. I think trust your
Yeah.
gut more and not run scared of that intuition and think, no, I should be doing this, I should be over here. But listen into the shoulds. And I think for me, I can look back now. It's easy to say in hindsight, isn't it?
It is, but
Because you're where you
hopefully,
want to be, hopefully. And then you think, well, why did I worry about all those things I was procrastinating about? But when you're there, every decision we make is the best we can do at the time. So there's never a make wrong, really, because, you know, there's no point in making me wrong for what I did. And there's no point in making anybody else wrong for what they've chosen, even if they know now it's not what they really want. So I think for me, I would just sort of say, just relax a little bit and trust that you will find your way, that your working life will evolve into something that is really, really right for you. But you'll have to tread a few boards first.
thank you so much for coming on to talk about it. It's been so interesting.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope I haven't just blasted too many words.
No, no, you haven't. It's been so interesting, and to hear about different ways you work, and
Yeah,
with
thank you.
people and with the
Thank you for
business
the
as well.
opportunity. It's great.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Thank you.